Real life witches? Is that a pig's head? A homeless dog giving birth? And is this guy pulling me around town? Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to talk about what Mexico City is like. I would say I lived the lifestyle because I didn't go to touristy areas or for a vacation. I went to go take care of my dad. He just had eye surgery and I really wanted to see what he needed and what I could do for him. So that's why I went. And it's kind of normal to get eye surgery. Not that it's a good thing that it's normal, but just so many people need it. The hospital line is so long and they only let 2 people in at a time. So I was waiting out there for like 6 hours, which was crazy. And I'm going to talk about transportation, food, and lifestyle overall in Mexico City. So if that's something you're interested in, keep watching. And also, just quick note, I went in May 2023, which was a few weeks ago, just so you kind of know what time of year I was there. And then also, if you decide to go to Mexico City, please be safe. Make sure you take someone, make sure you have connections out there, because things can happen to you, and just make sure you're careful. Okay, let's get into this video. So I'm gonna kick it off with the transportation. One of the many ways you can get around in life is by walking. We did a lot of walking, more than I'm used to. In Mexico, a lot of people walk everywhere, and it's actually pretty normal to walk very far to the store to pick things up. It's normal because a lot of people can't afford to have a car, and a lot of cars get broken into all the time. The second way to get around in Mexico is moto-taxis. So it's pretty much a guy on a bike or motorcycle pulling you around in this thing that kind of looks like a carriage, and it's not very safe because the metal bars you're sitting under is wrapped in plastic, and that's all your safety. But moto-taxis are one of the cheaper ways to get around. Another option to get around is a combi, which picks you up and drops you off like a bus, but it's a white van. The fourth way to get around is the metro, which can be an underground train, or it could also be found above ground. The next way to get around in Mexico is an Uber. It's really expensive for people who live there, but it's an available option. And the last options I'll mention are taxis, cars, and buses. So now we're moving on to food. So what you just heard is vendors early in the morning going down the street with a speaker playing a pre-recorded sales pitch. There's also some vendors that are right in front of your house and cook the food in front of you as well. Some other vendors pull out tables and chairs and cook all day on the side of the street. Unfortunately, I didn't get footage of this kind of vendor. Another way to get food is at markets. Some of the markets are outdoors and they're little shops that are just sticking out of a wall. And then other markets are indoors, where you can also tell them how to prepare your food, how to cut it, and they'll do it right there and then. One of my favorite places that I went to inside of one of these markets was this juice shop that also sold cut fruit. There's also a lot of little corner shops that sell hot food like pizza. One slice was less than $1. Something that I thought was wild was raw meat at outdoor markets where people just walked by it out in the open. Some of the indoor markets also had raw meat on the counters. One shop had pig faces hanging. Others had full raw chicken hanging too, which was shocking because it didn't seem sanitary, and in California we usually don't see pig faces hanging around. Another place to get food was at the Tianguis, which is a flea market, and a lot of people sell many different kinds of things. Some foods you can find there are veggies, sugar, peanuts, hot food, fruits, etc. You can also get food at mom and pop shops that are almost on every other corner. Their stores are chunks cut out of the building, and some of them are open at different times, but you can even find them open really late. Here's a picture of someone only selling vegetables. Other things you can find in these small stores is Mexican candy, chips, cookies, energy drinks, huge Coke bottles, and so much more. There's also a store called Bodega Aurrera, which is owned by Walmart, and it is pretty much kind of like Walmart, but it's a little bit more pricier. The last food you can get in Mexico is homemade food, which is honestly the best. Everybody there usually always has hot coffee with a side of cookies or bread. It's a thing to have it multiple times in one day. A popular meal is also prickly pear with chorizo. Some other dishes are fish with lettuce and tomatoes. There's also a lot of different kinds of salsas like avocado salsa. Another type of meal is breaded chicken. People there also really like pigskin with sour cream and hot sauce on a tostada. And for dessert, there's fried plantain, which is very sweet and tasty. A common way to serve meals out there is to have a soup first, and then you have the larger meal. Okay, so now we're going to talk about stores. There is Bodega Herrera, which is owned by Walmart, that I had mentioned earlier, but it is pricier than all the other options that were available. The next shops that you can go to is mom and pop owned shops that you can see on every other corner. One of the shops we stopped by was to refill our detergent bottle, which was super cool to see since it's more eco-friendly. There's also electronic stores where it's strictly just electronics. There's also stores where you can buy things for your house like light bulbs and outlets. They also have malls. The one I went to looks so different since half of it was dedicated to electronics, and inside there was stores tightly side by side. We had gone there to get a computer fix, and while we waited for it to be ready, we went downstairs, and they had a really cool area that sold a lot of anime items, and they even had arcades. Not only that, but they also had couches to sit and play video games on. Not to mention, they also sold super tasty food and ice cream. A store I was surprised by had higher security. I didn't get footage of it, but you looked at items behind glass windows, and we got the keyboard there, but we pretty much told an employee that we wanted it. We'd paid at a bank that was upstairs, come back down with the receipt, and sit down to pay for it. Now we're moving on to lifestyle section, which I'm going to mention a little bit about everything that was different in Mexico. One thing that I kind of noticed was different was how many flies there were there. I don't know if it was just my dad's home that had them, but they were fearless and attacked everybody while they were sleeping. Now we're going to move on to how people wash clothes. Usually people wash it by hand. My aunt had just bought this cool looking washing machine for my dad when I got there. And before, they used to wash their clothes in that blue ceramic slab behind. And here I quickly want to mention that we also wash dishes back there. Don't mind all the things that look like trash. My uncle recycles everything to make money. Which reminds me, their trash also gets picked up by a guy pulling a wagon with a horse. And also, since we're outdoors, we use this tarp to cover us by the sun. But now let's get back to washing clothes. So I had to climb up this ladder to hang all the clothes to dry. And it's on top of this newly constructed living area that my aunt had just paid to get built since she needed a place to stay when she visited. It's common to see clothes hanging on houses since it gets pretty hot out there, and usually everything is dry by the end of the day. So showering was a pain because my dad didn't have his water pipes connected since he's waiting to see so that he could do it himself and save some money. What we would have to do is haul water from the sink area all the way to the restroom and use a ceramic tool that we connected to an outlet and put inside the bucket, and it would heat up the water. Then we would have another bucket with cold water and mix them together to get the right temperature. But the water smells like rotten eggs, so we would use bottled water to brush our teeth and the rest for showering, flushing the toilet, and washing our faces. Another thing that was wild for me to learn was that 70% of dogs in Mexico are strays, and this is one of my dad's dogs that got out of the house and came back pregnant. It was sad to find out because a lot of people in Mexico can't afford to have a dog, so you see a lot of them out on the streets. Anytime you go anywhere, you're bound to come across so many stray dogs, and it's so normal to see them all the time, but getting them neutered is out of the question for people because it's just way too expensive. So now we're moving on to houses in Mexico. Most of them have this huge metal door to get inside your home. This clip is of my dad connecting the electricity because it went out, but behind him and my uncle, you could see that huge metal door. The inside of houses are made of concrete and there's no AC. Some of my dad's furniture was handmade by his dad because it's really expensive to be able to afford things in Mexico for people since they make so little and live day by day. Bathrooms usually don't have doors, they just have curtains hanging to separate the rooms, and the ceilings are sometimes metal slabs supported by bars. So it gets really hot in the house, and when it rains, it could leak since it's just metal sheets. Another thing that I thought was wild is how there's witches on TV. They claim that they will make you successful and get rid of any bad things in your life or help you find hidden treasures in your home. So now we're moving on to the weather. It seemed pretty random to me because one second it was really hot and sunny, and then out of nowhere it would start raining. I also noticed that the area was prone to flooding and it was really hard for people to get around when they got caught in the rain. Another thing that was interesting was seeing how schools kind of look like jails because they had fences that were covered in barbed wire. Something else that I noticed while I was out there was that tree trunks were covered in clay so that they wouldn't be eaten by bugs. Lastly, I wanted to mention the cemeteries there. All the gravestones looked so different. Some were surrounded in bricks, others were open and stylized, but none were exactly the same. There was also areas available to fill up buckets of water, and the day that we went was Mother's Day, so there was bands going around asking people if they wanted to buy a song for their loved one that had passed. There was also people selling flowers and snacks right outside the cemetery. I also wanted to mention how the money looked different and the bills all had odd values. For example, 50 pesos was $2.80. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If there was anything that was shocking or interesting, make sure you comment down below. And if you are interested in going to Mexico, I would say yes, but just make sure that you're safe. And I definitely came back with a different perspective on life. It was just a humbling experience, and it was fun to see where my family is from and to re-see what the lifestyle is like, because I had completely forgot what it was like, and it was actually really fun and I had a great time and I want to go back. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got takeaways, and I'll see you guys in the next one.